Welcome to the Texas Values Report. This is Jonathan Saenz, president of Texas Values. Great to be with you on another glorious week in the state of Texas. It's Christmas week, one of the most wonderful times of the year. I've even got my Christmas cookie here. I'm going to eat this while we're on the show because it looks really good, and I've been dreaming about it for days. I keep seeing this version of the Christmas cookie at parties, at HEB, when I was coming home from the Texas Longhorns winning their college football playoff game. Listen, Aggies, y'all don't give me a hard time. If your team was in the playoff, I would be encouraging people to support them as well. Can we come together? They are the only Texas team that is still in the playoffs. So, just thinking about it. I was pulling for the Ponies, too. Mary Elizabeth from our team is an SMU alumni. But now there's just 8, and am I right? I need to go back and think who all the teams are. Yes. You've got Georgia, Oregon, Boise State, Arizona State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame. I'm going to forget somebody. Goodness gracious. Ohio State. So I did have a good time at the game on Saturday. It was an early Christmas gift. I'm going to make all kinds of fun little jokes like that as well. What is not a joke is that we have a $125,000 matching grant in place. So you want to give the gift of freedom, of faith, of family, go to our website right now, txvalues.org. As a matter of fact, you can just go texasvalues.org. Probably going to start using that URL. We've had it for a while, but there's a story behind that. Nonetheless, make that donation today, tax-deductible donation, 501c3. Shout out to my friend. You know who you are. We talked on the phone earlier, who's making a substantial donation today. So all donations up to $125,000 are matched. Can you tell this is a Christmas tie, by the way? I have 2 of them, and I'm kind of wearing them out the past 2 weeks. They're not the same. I have 2 Christmas ties. One is like a plaid design. This one has little Christmas trees. Can you see them, like sort of ornaments? Right there. Okay, let me share this on my feed because it's just going to be me and you today, okay? So I might go on some notable, memorable, legendary rants or, whatever. Some, I don't know, some rabbit trail I might go down that should be fun because, whatever I need to do to fill up 26 minutes, and I'm sort of joking, but, I do tend to not have any problems talking. So it does, I don't know, is it run in my family? I guess, sort of. No, really, it does. Anyway, who was I with for my family recently? And what I do sometimes is I take a break from talking when I'm around some of my family because I know multiple people will fill that air and I can just go, great, I'm just going to relax during the holidays because I don't have to be the one that says anything all the time. Not that I'm complaining. I love what we do. I love this podcast and getting to interact with people. As a matter of fact, I converted someone to a fan of our state last night at a Christmas party that I had at my house with some friends from church and my kid's school. And I might drop something on social media about that later. Fine young man that if he does enroll in a university at the state of Texas, he is from the state of Arizona. So, of course, we talk some football since Texas is going to be playing Arizona State. Nonetheless, always some things to talk about around Christmas. As a matter of fact, one of the legendary stories, what is the song where they talk, the Christmas song where they talk about, I'm going to forget the phrase, but something about, stories of Christmases long ago, the victories, the celebrations, whatever, the fables, if you will. But once upon a time, it was, how does the story go? There was a conflict that we worked on in Killeen ISD. I'm going to think of how does the, maybe Ashley can text me. Why can't I remember how the classic story is told about, I think it's about Santa, as a matter of fact. Speaking of my cookie here with Santa. Or was it about Rudolph? We'll see. We'll get back to that in a minute. But 2016? Was it 2015? I forget what year it was. It's been several. But the Killeen ISD, the school district, and I bet you every time I talk about it, some of those people are, no, please stop talking about that. Well, maybe you'll think twice before you try to censor Jesus, okay? But the school district, well, a principal at one of the elementary schools, the school had said you could do Christmas decorations, okay? And there was an employee that put a Christmas decoration on her door. The decoration was her version of the Charlie Brown's Christmas movie, and really the scene at the end where Linus is on stage, he's got the spotlight on him, and the whole, short story, if you will, I think it's 30, 40 minutes, revolves around Charlie Brown, trying to figure out what the meaning of Christmas. Remember, he's got that sad looking tree that's kind of leaves falling all over the place. Anyway, and it gets to the end, and Linus has his big scene, right? And let's see if I'm tight and straight here with my attire. Why does that look like it's off? I can never get this camera going in the opposite here. Anyway, so Linus, there we go. Okay, now that's much better. Linus says that Christmas is about Jesus, and then I should have spent more time preparing. I was out on the road earlier, and I had to go, I was running an errand for work, and I thought, maybe I could swing by Academy and see if they have those Peach Bowl t-shirts out for the Longhorns, and that was not the place to be. I walked in, and I said, I'm leaving. This is not going to be an errand I have time to do during the workday. Anyway, so this employee in Killeen ISD had a depiction of Charlie Brown's Christmas with Linus with his big scene, his big quote, and he quotes from the book of Luke, where he talks about the story of Jesus and the Holy Night and the Silent Night. But in the quote from Linus, the drawing, the decoration that the employee had a quote like Linus was speaking, and from the book of Luke, and then the word Jesus was in that quote, and the teacher said, or the principal, I'm sorry, you got to take all of that, you can leave all of that up, but you got to take off the part that says Jesus. They did not beat around the bush. Okay, the principal did not. I believe it was a woman. She said, you got to take off Jesus. I mean, not even hiding, just take it all down. It's offensive or whatever, incorrect excuses people use or reasons for these type of issues. She went directly for Jesus. And, the reason I mention that is because, sadly, many of the times that people gripe, complain, or try to use the government or some court or some power to shut down Jesus, to leave Santa out in the cold, to say that red and green plates are somehow unconstitutional, it usually comes back to the fact that Jesus is in this equation and they don't like it, or they're uncomfortable with it. Jesus gets singled out, right? I mean, and look, Jesus is Christmas, so that wouldn't, I guess, in some ways not be a surprise. But if you're going to be okay with Santa Claus and the trees and all that, but then say Jesus cannot be a part of an expression of Christmas, there aren't any other expressions of Christmas unless Jesus is not a part of it, because that's where Christmas comes, right? Christ, Mass, the words together created Christmas many years ago, according to some article I read recently, but we can see how that came together. Anyway, so it was a week or so left before students were getting out on their break. We call it Christmas break at my kid's school, and so does Carroll ISD. Nonetheless, there was a couple days left, and we did everything we could to warn the school district. You can't do this. You can't single out Jesus. If you're a government entity or individual and you tell an employee or someone that they can speak, but then take sides on what they say, it's called viewpoint discrimination. That's what was happening there, and you're going to be in trouble. Well, they were worried about the ACLU suing them for the Christmas decorations. I guess they weren't so worried about us suing them for the violation of the First Amendment rights of that teacher. And this isn't new. I mean, this is well-settled area of free speech, even in public schools. But we did have a state law that we had just passed a few years ago. Y'all heard us talk about this a lot on this podcast, this radio show, and also on our website, the Merry Christmas Texas Law, merrychristmastexas.com. That website is up if you want to see how the law works since 2013. But it's supposed to clear all these things up so we didn't have these conflicts. Oh, no, they didn't want to listen. They said their lawyer said there was a concern. We said our lawyer, being the attorney general of the state, Ken Paxton, says you got it wrong. So they didn't want to listen to that. What is a lawyer to do? But we sued the school district with about a day before break. Went into court, like I think at 1 or 2 o'clock. Had a ruling within the next hour or so. Boom. The school district was wrong. They have to allow her to have the expression of Jesus and, the entire decorations for her door revolving around Charlie Brown's Christmas. But the judge had a tie sort of like this that looked like a Christmas-themed tie when we came into court. So I thought we had a good chance to win, and we did. And it was a coast-to-coast victory. The media was all over it. Fantastic. Probably one of the best victories we've ever had, and could not have been happier. But listen, I didn't know it was going to turn out that way. We invested like 2 weeks of work. So when that happens, there we are to show up and to defend Christmas. So just more motivation why I hope you celebrate and enjoy Christmas, because we still have to fight for it every now and then. But, sometimes we can enjoy it. And one of the cases, speaking of Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, okay, whatever you're calling it, some people call him now, but or what version, if you will, got left out in the cold one time. I think it was in Fort Worth ISD. They said that Santa Claus couldn't be at the Christmas party or the winter party in one of the public schools there. I believe it was Fort Worth. I'll check it later, somewhere up in the DFW area. But there are some religious connections to St. Nicholas, but look, a lot of the depictions of Santa Claus are not religious particularly. I'm fine with you if to you it's a religious thing, and if to me it is too, but it seemed a bit of an overreaction. So they put Santa out in the cold. That got addressed. Santa is very meaningful to Christmas in a lot of ways, particularly as Americans, but I've been waiting to have this cookie for a while. So, I like Christmas cookies. By the way, you heard that Christmas cookie song by George Strait? Very good. Classic. Check it out. So, big news over the weekend. Did you know? By the way, I'm looking forward to seeing my parents, including my father, on Christmas, whose favorite question to me, typically when he first greets me, did you hear, son? Did you see? Right? He's always on top of the news, which I appreciate. And sometimes I've seen and heard what he's talking about, but a lot of times I haven't, because he watches Fox News and other entities like that cover a lot of national news. I'm involved in some of that and pay attention, and I might know, but I'm typically a little bit more focused on what happens at the state and local level. But it's fine. It gives me an opportunity to go, Dad, you really know a lot. Tell me what you know that I don't know, right? Did you know? Did you hear? Over the weekend, President Trump was speaking at a Turning Point USA America Fest. By the way, hey, whatever y'all are doing at America Fest and Turning Point USA, Morgan McMichael and all that other team and crowd out there, you got something figured out. Because if you can have an event, a 3-day event, 2 or 3 days before Christmas, and you have, thousands of people show up, that's pretty impressive. Now, it certainly helps when the incoming president of the United States confirms that he's going to be there. There's no doubt about that. So President Trump spoke, I think it was yesterday, right? I guess their event concluded on Sunday. Nonetheless, President Trump had some pretty specific and strong words to share with people that from day one, executive order, there's not going to be men competing in women's sports. There's not going to be gender transition surgeries on kids, tax dollars used for a bunch of other stuff. He did not mince words. Okay, he was very clear. Now, this shouldn't be a surprise, but sort of like when Governor Abbott gives his State of the State speech at the beginning of the session and kind of lines out, here are my priorities, here are my emergency items. To hear Donald Trump talk about that publicly was fantastic, right? And, it's sort of him keeping his campaign promise. I was on the floor of the RNC in July when President Trump, while giving his nomination speech, said there will not be men competing in women's sports when I'm president, when I become president. He didn't say if, I don't think. I don't think he said if. Knowing Donald Trump, pretty sure he said when. right? And I believed him, right? But that was back in July, so great to hear about that campaign promise he's following up on. And look, I'd love to be a part of helping now, okay? So, good cookie, by the way. Good job, HEB. All right, so, not only that, yesterday, Sunday, I guess the same day, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, he has announced that he's suing the NCAA for, I don't know, misleading people, for deceptive methods, whatever, by making it clear that the NCAA is being dishonest when they talk about, some women's sporting events when they're allowing men to compete in them. Anyway, I haven't looked into all the lawsuit, but we love what he's doing. I'm going to dig into it more and let you know what's going on there. But we did a press release about it earlier. And the other graphic that just came up, though, is, I think this was on Saturday. I'm trying to think, as I was getting to the University of Texas football game, how many times can I mention that during this broadcast? We shall see, okay? But President Biden, where I need a white flag, okay? This isn't a flag, but, waving the white flag. He's withdrawing his attempt to rewrite the law that would allow men to compete into women's sports and pushing for a federal policy that allows that. I mean, they've been doing it for almost 2 years, trying to put this together, but, they surrendered. They're not going to do it because they realize it's not going to happen. It's not popular. Democrats lost an election in large part because of this issue being on the wrong side of history, okay, people, on that issue. But I think some of it is they know Trump's wanting to address that issue day one, so they're going to try to take away a little bit of opportunity for him to have some glory. But we are not fooled out here, okay? We know exactly what Biden tried to push and what he'd still be pushing if he was still if he was still in office and paying attention, or somebody was pulling strings back there to make that happen. This is really irritating to me that I can't get this tie straight. Okay, y'all bear with me. Is that good? No, that's worse. I need like a closer up screen. I went the wrong way. See, I can't get this screen being the opposite, when you're doing these. All right. I'll pick up somebody to help me with grooming later. Okay. So, in case you missed it, if you're one of our higher level supporters, you probably got an ornament in the mail that you typically get from the Texas Capitol, but you probably also got the first ever, well, it's not the first, but the newest edition of the Texas Values ornament, which really looks a lot like the style of the ornament that they make at the Texas Capitol, because I think we worked with the vendor that makes those ornaments, and we created our own. So the first year, you got to check that out, okay? It's kind of got a neat, real shiny back, too. This is the manger scene. It says, Keep Christ in Christmas. Probably hard to see. Maybe kind of zoom in a little bit. There. And our Texas Values logo. And we did order some extra ones. So if you didn't get it in the mail and you want to donate or you want to purchase one, send an email to info@txvalues.org. If we have some left, we'll see what we can do. But that's was arriving homes last week and this week, because, you may be like me and you just got your tree put up this weekend. I did have some other Christmas decorations, but the tree was one of the last to get up. So you're putting up ornaments. I'm putting up ornaments tonight. I celebrate Christmas I do a lot of the decorating stuff more like Christmas and afterwards, okay? The 12 days of Christmas and all that good stuff. And a lot of times because we're in the middle of a lot of work, right? We were fighting to keep, Christmas celebrations in schools and all that kind of stuff almost every year. This one, we had work at the U.S. Supreme Court that we were involved in. We're also bringing some new people onto the team. I'll have more of those formal announcements in the new year. Really excited about that. And we had several events the past couple of weeks. So I did have my lights up 2 weeks in advance of Christmas, if you will. Listen, speaking of Christmas and gifts, there's a $125,000 matching grant. All donations up to $125,000 will be matched by December 31st. Very important because we've got to raise $500,000 before the end of the year, before the end of December, to cover our expenses and to start the legislative session strong. Okay? So donate right now at TX Values. TXValues.org. We had some great events last week, though. Austin, San Antonio a week and a half ago. Houston was fantastic. Maggiano's, loved the food, even though the power went out. Of course, right? Houston, a storm, the power goes out. I'm not making light of it. It does happen frequently, well, more often than most other parts of the state. But we figured it out. We weathered the storm. What's going on with the Speaker of the House issue? Has that issue been resolved? Not even close. As a matter of fact, I think things have heated up. We have a blog post, an article, some commentary in detail for you to read. You're like, I didn't even know this was going on. Well, what is the deal? You know what? And so we put together a lot of detail on that. Go to our website, txvalues.org. It's one of the first or second stories. Look, are we going to follow the caucus rules? This could be David Cook. That's what we think that House members should do. Or is it going to be Dustin Burrows, who's going to go to the Democrats for support and probably is going to allow Democrats to be chairs of committees? And that's not the only difference between the two candidates. The only difference is check out our blog post at txvalues.org on the Texas Speaker of the House race. Here's one of the questions, though, okay, or I'm curious about, because Donald Trump Jr. has already weighed in on this and showing his support of David Cook. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if President Trump weighs into this discussion, because he does tend to pay attention and stay up to date a lot of what's going on in Texas with policies and politics. As a matter of fact, I don't think I mentioned this, but over the weekend, well, actually it was during the football game on Saturday, I saw some notifications, but our good friend Aaron Wrights was announced is going to be nominated by President Trump to serve as the director, I believe, of the Office of Legal Policy with the Justice Department. Aaron's currently a chief of staff for U.S. Senator Ted Cruz. Aaron also worked for Attorney General Ken Paxton. You can see on the screen there, we had a nice little moment to take a picture at the RNC convention in Milwaukee earlier this year, back in July. Aaron also was a law clerk, I believe, for Justice Jimmy Blacklock on the Texas Supreme Court. And, Aaron's kind of in one of those can't-lose situations. He went to undergrad at Texas A&M. He went to law school at the University of Texas. So, Thanksgiving can be pretty good for him, I imagine. Very sharp attorney, incredibly hard worker. The guy is always results-oriented and looking to get good work done. So, congratulations, Aaron. Great job. So we're pulling for him, but that's another reason why you're going to see, I think, the Trump administration engage more on some of these type of things and what's happening in the state of Texas, right? And so, who ends up being the Speaker of the House could be a huge difference maker in what happens in the Texas House and ultimately what gets passed in our state legislature. I mean, the Senate can pass bills 5, 6 times, 100 times. If the House doesn't do it, it's over. I mean, the bill's dead, okay? So, okay. Y'all don't give me too much grief. I do like Christmas cookies, and I've not had one of these yet. The Santa Claus Christmas cookie. By the way, not that they're paying me to say this, but while we were in Houston for my H-Town friends, finally, I got to go back to Crave Cupcake over there in the Post Oak area, Galleria area. Have not been there in years because I just keep forgetting. But I grabbed a few on the way out of town. Last week, a lot of great friends there. Senator Mays Middleton was there, Representative Tom Oliverson. And if you missed it, sorry. And if you haven't been to some of our events this season, no big deal. We got some coming up in January. January 14th is the first day of the legislative session. We do have a private event on January 27th. If you got an invitation, you know who you are. That event is already booked up. But an event that's completely open and we want thousands of people there from the public is our Faith and Family Day on March 14th. That's our biggest day where we get the biggest group together to go to the Texas Capitol and let your voice be heard on our issues. Now, we have somebody from our team at the state Capitol every day during the legislative session. Only Faith and Family organization that does that. And that's been the case since we started, when it was just me and, Julie Drenner. I think she and I worked together the first session. So they'll put those dates on your calendar. Okay, January 14th, first day of the legislative session. That is the day that the vote's going to be taken on the Speaker of the House. Also, January 27th is a private welcome back reception. If you receive that invitation, the details of where it is should be a part of that. So please let us know. And then March 14th, there'll be other things that will come up as well. January 15th, I'll be at the U.S. Supreme Court for a huge case from the state of Texas. And then January 20th, I'm going to be at the inauguration. So I don't usually travel to D.C. this often, but duty calls. Okay, so I will be there. And listen, though I did an immediate interview this morning with KTRH. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be back on 740 KTRH Houston News in the morning at 7:20. I think it's a live take. The one I did this morning was a recorded one. There's an article about that, less and less people go to church on Christmas. I mean, that's the day you shouldn't miss, right? A lot of people that don't go to church regularly, you want to make sure you go on Christmas and Easter. I don't have a problem with that. Love it when the church is full. A lot of times I go to midnight mass. I go to, the midnight leading up to, because for me, it's like, it's dark, maybe it's kind of cold, the moon's out, a star, whatever. It feels to me like maybe that's what it was like when Jesus was born. It was, dark and, all that kind of stuff. So it just kind of puts me in that mood and that focus. But, there are several opportunities at our church. Maybe you should, and one of the things it said in the article was, well, nobody invited me. Okay, if you haven't been invited, here's my invitation. I invite you to go to church on Christmas, or maybe you go on Christmas Eve. That's fine as well. So, you want to come to my church, St. Vincent de Paul in the Avery Ranch, northwest part of Austin. Here's my invitation to you. You are welcome. There's another church that's more closer to you or they're used to going. Great. Okay, it's one of the best times of the year to go. And if you're those people that are always there, like the pastor at our church was saying this weekend, be friendly to those people that haven't been in a while and you're like, oh, they're just going to show up on Christmas. Wonderful. Okay, great. If this is the only time you're going to go all year, okay, then make it Christmas. It's going to be special. And listen, we have a lot of work that we're getting prepared for, work we've done this year. But more to talk about that later after Christmas. Please travel safe. Take time to celebrate with your family. Tell some Christmas stories. Check out our highlight video. Pass it around. That's what I was doing at my Christmas party yesterday. I didn't bring it up. Okay, somebody else was like, Jonathan, tell them what you do. Thank you for the opportunity. Talk to them about our work. Share our highlight video. We've got a 7-minute version and now a 1-minute version. But it's all about making sure that we can celebrate and talk about and be involved in such a wonderful Christian and American tradition, which is Christmas. So Merry Christmas to you. God bless you. And we'll talk to you next week on the Texas Values Report.